Hello, you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Jonasz Rawiński. Poland is signing a major submarine deal with Sweden, with 3 high-tech stealth submarines expected to arrive by the year 2030 to boost the nation's naval capabilities in the Baltic Sea. Before the brand new Blekinge-class subs arrive, Poland will also benefit from special gap-filler arrangements allowing Polish personnel to undergo the necessary training. Joining us now to discuss this story is Jakob Hallgren, president at the Swedish Institute of International Affairs. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, good morning.
Right, so first let's begin with the basics. How important do you think is this deal from the perspective of the security of the Baltic region?
I think this is a great development. It manifests the strong collaboration between Sweden and Poland, which has developed in an incredible way in the last few years. When Sweden and Poland together can provide almost like a lock in the Baltic Sea between the two countries, they will have unrivaled abilities to both monitor and deter antagonistic behavior, which is of course mainly coming from Russia. So I think in many ways this is a great development for the security and defense and ultimately deterrence of the Baltic Sea.
So let's talk about the basics of the deal itself. Now, it encompasses 3 submarines, but these submarines have not arrived yet. I mean, from a technical perspective, Poland will be essentially testing a brand new type of submarine. Can you tell us more about their capabilities and why they were chosen for the task?
Well, why they were chosen, I guess you have to ask the Polish government. But I think that they were convinced by, yes, this is a new model, but it comes on top of 100 years of submarine technology and development in Sweden. So Sweden is an old submarine nation, if you will. This is a capability that Poland will share with Sweden, and it features some of these particular capabilities that you just mentioned, which is a development of earlier models, such as the Södermanland model that Poland will now borrow for 2 or 3 years before the arrival of the A-26 Blekinge class. I think the fact that 2 nations are now sharing the technology and the platform not only has great operational advantages, but it also means that with more users, the technology itself will also have kind of more investors, which means that it'll be a stronger product. As with all products, there are, of course, necessary development and upgrades and so on, but sharing that with the closest friend and ally, also considering the fact that both country submarine will operate in the same waters. I mean, the Baltic Sea are very particular waters with they are shallow, they are complex in terms of acoustics, etc. I think this will make for an unrivaled deterrent, actually, in the waters that protect us.
So now that you've mentioned this submarine was actually designed with this particular region in mind. Can you tell us a bit more about the technical capabilities? Because one of the main factors here was that it was essentially a submarine that was designed knowing what sort of environment it would be operating in. And stealth was actually very high on the agenda, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this again builds on a long tradition of stealthy earlier versions of Swedish submarines. I mean, the Baltic Sea is shallow. I mean, it's not very deep compared to the high seas and blue water, where other types of submarines are maybe more appropriate. So it is an advantage to be fairly small, or at least not too big. And the fact that it's not very deep is a factor. A third factor is, of course, as we all know, the Baltic Sea is a mix of salt and sweet water, which makes it particularly difficult when it comes to both tracking and also maybe hiding. So the stealthy element is incredibly important. And then I'd say the sensors that are part of this submarine is also particularly important, which means that having such a potent threat underwater will complicate drastically the calculus of the adversary, because it's not only a listening entity, it is also potentially a dangerous, it could attack if needed in defense any strange ideas from the Russian side. So in that respect, I think it is an ideal solution for both countries to invest in.
Now, what else do you need, what do you think would be needed to change Russia's calculus in the Baltic Sea? It has often been pointed out that if Russia wants to perhaps proceed to some sort of horizontal escalation, perhaps try to test the resilience of the NATO alliance itself, that would most likely happen somewhere in the Baltic Sea, whether a strike on one of the Baltic states or one of the islands in the Baltic itself. Gotland was also mentioned as a potential target for Russia. Now, what do you think is going to happen, apart from the submarine deal? What other issues will need to be addressed in order to make the Baltic a more secure place and ensure sufficient deterrence against Moscow?
Well, it is of course true that the underwater domain is only one of several domains which need to be protected, and where appropriate deterrents need to be tailored and stepped up in order to ensure that Russia will not attack. But the unfortunate truth is, of course, that they are testing us in all domains, not only underwater, but on water, in the air, and in the whole hybrid domain. I mean, the fact that Finland and Sweden have now joined NATO will, of course, make it much more easy for NATO to plan and for an appropriate deterrence. Now, once the war in Ukraine is settled one way or another, we will have an even more problematic situation, I think, in this region, because this means that some of the resources and capabilities that Russia have now tied up in Ukraine might move in our direction. I think we have a window of opportunity now to build up a deterrence which ensures that Russia will not in any way exploit or abuse whatever crazy ideas they would have of testing the alliance. I guess it's important to remember that Russia's interest in the hybrid domain is very much to try to weaken and undermine what makes us strong. That's not only our joint military capabilities, it's our societies, it is our collaboration in the alliance, but also in the EU. So I think it is important to talk and chew gum at the same time, and realize that there are many dimensions and many areas and many domains in which Russia is trying to test us. So the submarine deal is incredibly important for the water and the underwater domain, but there are so many other domains, as you rightly put out, where we need to scale up and adapt our deterrence.
Jakob Hallgren was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight and experience.
Thank you very much.
And I'm Jonasz Lewiński. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news, updates and commentary.